is Wednesday of LSU week. Now, we didn't have a Watch the Tape Tuesday of the Gamecocks because, of course, South Carolina did not play. But today, we are starting to take a little bit of a closer look at this LSU team and continue to talk about where the Gamecocks are after 5 games. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And yesterday, Preston, I took a real deep look at that Ole Miss LSU game. I've watched the Florida game, watched the Clemson game, which really the only 3 games I think, if you want to get ready for this game, you really need to watch because Louisiana Tech's not going to tell you much. Southeast Louisiana is going to tell you nothing. But I took a pretty deep look yesterday at the Ole Miss game.
So when you watched the Ole Miss game yesterday, did it make you more or less cautious about the game coming up on Saturday?
It made me more confident that this is going to be a rock fight. And if it's not a rock fight, Carolina might be in trouble. Because that defense is really good. Now, they gave up some yards. Of course, Ole Miss's offense is elite.
Right.
That's what they do. Ole Miss will move the ball against anybody, right? If you hold there may be 3 or 4 defenses in America that ultimately hold Ole Miss's offense to less than 300 yards. The number is small. Can count it on one hand, right? How many can actually do that? But LSU's offense is worse than I thought upon rewatch. Ole Miss defense is good. But LSU's offensive line, especially in pass protection, significantly worse. This should be a Dylan Stewart, Brian Thomas game. Because you want to know how many times I counted Ole Miss sending more than 3 rushers to rush Garrett Nussmeier? Less than 5. Entire game.
You were mentioning in that pre-show is that Ole Miss essentially played a 3-man front and LSU could not run them out of it and still were not efficient at running the ball in a 3-man front.
Now, they disguised it well for the most part. They'd show 5 and then they drop 2 back. But for the most part, Pete Golding, the defensive coordinator at Ole Miss, just dared LSU to run the ball. Dared them to. And would just drop 8 in coverage. And that's where Garrett Nussmeier made a lot of mistakes. I knew Garrett Nussmeier has not played very well this year. But I didn't, and a lot of that can be injury, right? The accuracy issues, I think we can maybe chalk up to some injury stuff, him maybe not being as 100% as he might have been when we saw him last year. But, buddy, find you someone in life who loves you the way Garrett Nussmeier loves throwing into double coverage on his zone defense, and you will live a long, happy marriage, right?
Now, from your diagnosis, are his throws into double coverage, are they, I believe in myself and I can get this throw in here, or, oh, where did he come from?
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both?
The first interception he threw in that game, he threw 2. The first that he threw in that game was I didn't know the linebacker could jump that high.
You can't do that.
Yeah, you can't do
Go back on
People can't just go flying in the air like that, Jackie. That's exactly what that one was. I mean, because it was one where a receiver is kind of breaking the route into the middle of the field, and he tries to kind of layer it over the linebacker that was there. And
the linebacker just got up higher than he thought.
He got up higher than he thought, and he picked it off. The other one was so Nussmeier technically threw 1 interception. I remember this one he didn't get picked off, but I was like, that should have been. That's spiritually an interception. Straight up threw it into triple coverage in the flat. Because again, Ole Miss is dropping 8, going basically quarters coverage, dropping it into 8, and he's throwing it to the right side, and there was the boundary corner. There was the linebacker responsible for the slot, and the safety even moved up and got in on the action, too. There were 3 Ole Miss jerseys and 1 LSU jersey. And really, it might have been intercepted if there were fewer Ole Miss players there. But, I mean, he stared down and threw right into it.
Let me rewind a second for those that are maybe not caught up. When we say injury for Nussmeier, it is an oblique?
An oblique injury.
An oblique injury, which is affecting him because it's just making him generally uncomfortable back there throwing.
And it's affected, I would say it's affected his accuracy. His accuracy is not what it was. Now, he did make a couple throws in that game where you're like, that's what I expect out of this guy, right? But that was kind of few and far in between. They didn't throw it downfield a ton, and they threw screens on first down a lot because I think they knew without Caden Durham, they will not be able to run the ball at all, even though they do have a 5-star freshman running back in Harlan Berry who end up playing somewhat well.
Second question on the injury. Is it a strain or a bruise? Because a bruise, if there's a bruise,
You could live with that.
Well, I'm just, this is too early for 6 o'clock, 6:05 in the morning. But if he has a bruise, you can find a bruise and you can impact a bruise on defense. You know what I'm saying? Like you can, if it's a,
You can find the weak spot.
there's some spots there. If it's a strain, it's maybe internal, and that's more on him. So I just wonder, is it a bruise that maybe we can impact, find? Or is it a strain, which is more? It's just a question. I'll do some digging into the medical records for that.
I would guess by the way he plays, strain.
Okay.
Just because the accuracy is not there the way it was last year, right? But that means they could be more turnover prone, and there's still a lot of stupid plays that Garrett Nussmeier has not gotten out of his system.
And the thing about Garrett Nussmeier that made me change him from, I was ardent on the Garrett Sussmeier last year, and then he made some throws against us specifically. I was like, "Ooh, buddy, that's nice."
Last year might have been against Carolina at Williams-Brice, might have been his best game in terms of putting out tape, because he did make some throws in that game where you're like, "Good Lord."
Yeah, I was like, "Wow." But the thing about a strain, if it's that, it's just that it doesn't allow you to 100% follow through or 100% stretch out or 100% put everything, because it's just always going to be a little grimace to when you're making a throw. You can grin and bear it, but maybe not having the fastball that you have or just a little bit of accuracy, there's going to be some things that might affect him. So obviously but all of that being said, he's still the stir to that offensive drink, right? He's still the straw. He's
Definitely.
still the one that makes everything go.
When he was on, it made a big impact on that offense. Now with about 5 or 6 minutes left, LSU only had about 174 yards total offense, and most of that came from the passing game. And he hit 1 or 2 explosives on the final drive where they ended up scoring a touchdown, not getting the 2-point conversion, but scored a touchdown to make it 24-19. But before that, the offense in the passing game was pretty dysfunctional. On first down, they threw screens a lot. And I think, again, that's a lot because they don't trust their running game, which will help you. Will play into your hands a little bit. We'll find out what Caden Durham's availability is expected to be whenever they start releasing those reports. But even with a somewhat healthy Caden Durham that's active, I still expect them to do that, because that is one thing that if you are Joe Sloan, the LSU offensive coordinator, you do know that you have really fast perimeter players like Xavier Thomas, incredibly fast, Berrien Brown, insanely fast. They want to get those guys out on the perimeter, and if their receivers block well enough, they can make stuff happen. Defensively, they're better than I thought. They're pretty good. And it's not, obviously, Harold Perkins is the one that we focus on a lot just because he's the most unique player on that defense. And he's definitely, I think, one of their best run stoppers. But they get after the quarterback, man. They get after. Ole Miss has a solid offensive line. I don't think Ole Miss has one of the best offensive lines in the SEC, but it's solid. And Chambliss did have to run around a little bit. I think Ole Miss did a really good job, though. I think Charlie Weiss Jr. and Lane Kiffin came up with an incredible game plan to be able to use LSU's aggressiveness against them. And that's what Carolina's going to have to do to be able to get yardage in this game. Because LSU, like in the broadcast, Greg McElroy said that 40% of the snaps brought an additional rusher. So they're blitzing about 40% of the time. And a lot of times, Ole Miss would use a lot of eye candy, a lot of play action. Again, magic word here, a lot of play action. Because Whit Weeks would bite on every single play fake. Every single one. If it looks like Trinidad Chambliss is handing the ball off or running towards the line of scrimmage, he is getting up in that action. He wants a part of that. And Ole Miss got him out of position a few times to be able to make some throws across the field.
And in our traditional scouting report, Whit Weeks is your Mike linebacker, correct?
Correct.
He's right in the middle of the defense, kind of probably the green dot guy, more than likely.
Yep.
He's the center of the defense. Very good player.
Very good player.
Very, very good player. But he's susceptible to, like you said, to maybe some eye discipline issues.
Yes, because he's so aggressive.
Because you're taking what he does well and you're using it against him.
And that's what Ole Miss did really well. And when I was trying to think of things, there are a couple plays Ole Miss made where I'm like, South Carolina's not doing that. I would laugh to myself because when I watch these games, when I prepare for these type of things, I'm like, okay, what is it that the team that I cover can replicate, right? Plenty of things where I'm like, okay, you're not doing that.
Right, because there's some inherent creativity to a Lane Kiffin offense that we haven't seen displayed here at South Carolina, and it just doesn't feel as if it's in Mike Shula's DNA to do some of those maybe out of the box type of play calling.
But a lot of the design quarterback runs, if your running backs can block, there's no reason why you can't. If you go back and rewatch this game and you go back into about early in the fourth quarter, is it late third quarter, early fourth? It was late third because Ole Miss was going a certain direction. So it was late third quarter. Ole Miss is backed up deep into their own territory, and it's a 3rd and 11. Trinidad Chambliss drops back, looks like he's going to pass. Logan Diggs, the backup running back, runs straight up the middle and is basically trying to identify the quarterback spy, which for most of the game was Whit Weeks. Finds Weeks, almost pancake blocks him, and Chambliss runs up the middle.
Cuts off him.
And is able to pull off a first down on a quarterback draw on 3rd and 11 deep inside their own territory when LSU was bringing extra pressure.
It sounds like an old school lead draw type of play where, you know, and he's following him and he's going to make his decision based on where the running back. And the cool thing about that, the running back can block you either way. He's just going to take you where you want to go, and then I cut off of him. I think we got that in our tackle box of plays. Mm-hmm. I think that's not something that's too out of the realm for Shula, so that's something that could be replicable.
Yeah, and especially if you put a lot, like Van Drevis Jacobs now has had 2 straight 100-yard games. Maybe putting him in motion a little bit, even though I know he's mostly played out on the boundary or out wide. Maybe if you use him the way Ole Miss used Harrison Wallace, who's their main outside wide receiver, who for most of the first half, Mansour Delane, LSU's #1 cornerback, who again tied with Braden Cisse for the SEC lead in incompletions forced. They played their hand a lot because whenever they were in man, Delane was on Wallace every single time. They would send Wallace in motion, and when Delane didn't follow, okay, like they're in zone, you were able to figure that out and diagnose it before the snap. LSU will show their hand on defense, but they do have a lot of great athletes. That defensive line is really good. My thing is good luck running the ball because Harold Perkins is a dog in run defense. Harold Perkins also maybe the only linebacker this year I've seen that has not bit on play action because he is so athletic. He doesn't need to take a couple steps. It's like an outfielder in baseball, right? When the ball is hit, instead of instinctively running up towards the ball, they'll take 3 or 4 steps back so they can run in on it because they know they have the speed to catch up to maybe a ball that's not going to the warning track. Harold Perkins is with run defense. He'll take a couple steps back, and then once he sees that it is for sure a run play, he's still one of the first guys there.
Because you can always close forward.
Yes.
That's kind of a rule of sports. Yeah, you can always close forward, but going backwards is always going to be difficult. That seems like it seems simple, but it's not easy. Coaches coach that on every single level. Trinidad Chambliss, 300 yards passing. How many yards did he have rushing in that game?
71.
Do we need that performance from Lenoris?
100%. 100%. Even accounting for sacks, he had 14 carries for 71 yards. Now, Kawan Lacey for Ole Miss had 87 yards on 23, which isn't a great outing because it's less than 4 per carry.
But is it the volume?
I think it was the volume, and it was how they did it, right? They would do it on first down some, but it was a lot of situational runs for them because they'd go tempo on 3rd down, and that's when he picked up his chunks. He didn't pick up a ton of chunk plays, but Ole Miss also did a really good job of running tempo on 3rd down specifically to kind of get them tired. And on the broadcast, they said is also to try to get signals. Blake Baker said that they'll go tempo on 3rd down or they'll maybe go slower on some plays just to try to get your signals. And that's why they changed up their entire hand signal thing before the game, all that type of stuff. But ultimate conclusion, LSU, as advertised, defensively against one of the best offenses in America, very vulnerable on the offensive side of the football. So that was kind of my first takeaway from LSU. We'll continue to do this throughout the show. But coming up next, Shane Beamer spoke yesterday, and we talked about Harold Perkins and Professor P. I asked Shane Beamer to break him down. We'll hear what he had to say next.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. If your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. Cracked windshield, no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. That's right. They'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work. It does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out to you and take care of the job for you. Now, if you're at home, you're looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows or mirrors, and Absolute Glass will take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. I say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
And it looks like, for the most part, traffic moving pretty well this morning. We will welcome that and hope your Wednesday morning is good and safe. 84 for the high today. Maybe some afternoon thunderstorms, and then that will cool things off. It's going to be kind of windy tomorrow. 74 for the high, 72 on Friday. We'll be in the mid-70s for the weekend, but it looks like that's our only chance of rain is later on today. Right now, it's fair. It's 67 on 107.5 The Game.
One of the players to watch for that the early game is keeping their eye on for LSU is Harold Perkins. Talked about yesterday. He is the star position, the star linebacker. Not just star because he's a standout, but star because of all the different types of things he does on a football field. Very hard player to prepare for, given his size, his athleticism, and his skill set. So I asked Shane Beamer during his press availability yesterday, how do you prepare for a player on the other side of the ball with such a unique skill set? Here was his answer.
Yeah, ton of respect for Blake Baker, their defensive coordinator. He does an awesome job. He did when he was at Miami and Missouri. We saw plenty of film when we played against Missouri my first couple of years, and now at LSU. And Perkins is a great player, and they do a great job with him. You know, he's most teams you play, they have a nickel or a Sam linebacker, meaning if you're, an 11 personnel, tight end, 3 receivers are probably going to play with 5 DBs, and your Sam linebacker is going to come off the field and they're going to play nickel, which is what we do with Jalen Kilgore. But then most teams have where if the team's in 12 personnel, meaning there you have 2 tight ends, a lot of teams are going to play base defense where they're going to have their true 3 linebackers and they're going to sub it in. We did that. We've done that in the past with some of our bigger linebackers. When Bam Scott was here, we did a little bit of that. They don't have to do that because Perkins is one of the rare guys that's a Sam and a nickel. And he can match up against tight ends and stay on the field in base defense. He can match up with receivers and stay on the field and be their nickel. But then they've got a multitude of other personnel groupings that they can utilize out there. And then he's just a really good player. He can run, he can cover, and then he's just got a great knack for. They bring him on pressures a lot, and he's got a really nice knack for. He's just got great instincts and a knack for making plays in the backfield. But then you combine that with the tackles that return plus 88 that transferred from South Florida. He's a dude inside. The 2 ends that came in from Florida State and Florida, their issues. We know all about the Weeks brothers and the players that they are. And then, it's as good a secondary as there is in this league. So, yeah, they present a lot of problems, and he's a big part of that.
I wish if you're not watching on the YouTube stream, A, you should, the Game TV radio on YouTube. B, you would have seen Preston Thorne get a little tingly because now Shane Beamer is speaking his language.
Professor Shane doing a great job of explaining things. It was a great job of explaining because obviously he was getting into some advanced level stuff, but he was breaking down the basics of what he was talking about and essentially echoed what we said yesterday with Harold Perkins Jr., that he does it all. And he's a guy who does not come off the field. He can cover, he can blitz, he can play in space, and he's a dude that you like having basically a Swiss Army knife for your defense. He can do a little bit of everything. And
it's a lot of what they have a plan for every type of personnel grouping you put out there.
And it involves him.
And he can fit into a multitude of those things. And it reflects on film, too. You watch them play, and it is so fun to see where exactly he's lined up every play. That was one of the things I did yesterday. It was like, I'm going to be as cognizant as I can about where number 7 is on the field. So before Ole Miss would snap the ball, I'm like, okay, where's Harold Perkins? I'd find him, like, oh, he's on the edge. Oh, he's in the slot right here. And just because he's in the slot doesn't just mean that he's in coverage, right? He will often pass guys on to safeties. They run a lot of zone defense. Usually they were not in man a ton unless it might have been, even on one side of the field. Like, Delane plays a lot of, man coverage on Wallace in that game specifically because Wallace is a big play threat. Delane is one of the better corners in America. But a lot of times they would have it appear like he is in man on the slot receiver and then kind of hang out in the flat and then attack one way or another, right? And he's their most disciplined run stopper, too. Even on a bunch of eye candy and play fakes, while that might get everybody else to kind of bite on that, Perkins is still in the play regardless of what you do pre-snap. And I think that's probably the most valuable part of him that I didn't really get to appreciate until watching it incredibly closely yesterday in that game specifically.
And that's exactly what LaNorris is going to be doing when he comes to the line of scrimmage, or whoever's playing center. 7. Where is he? Everybody's pointing to him, and then we can start running our offense after that, because I would imagine wherever he is going to predicate what they intend to do on offense.
So I do have a quick question. Does he have a bruise?
is
Going
there
back
a
to our
vulnerable
previous
spot on him?
conversation, I'm just saying. Have we scouted
I
that?
haven't scouted that yet. Fortunately, I think he's 100% on the go.
That's tragic. But I'm here to help with the hurt.
Yes, if needed, if we have an injury scouting report on Harold Perkins on where he's maybe not feeling his best, right? Where to attack. But that's the one thing, even going into this matchup, that I was probably the most excited for was Harold Perkins versus LaNorris Sellers. Because I think if this Gamecock offense wants to achieve its potential, LaNorris being the main focal point of your run game is probably what that looks like, right? And if that's going to be the case, and it was for Ole Miss a lot, again, they had their running back, Kwan Lacey, ran 23 times. Trinidad Chambliss ran 14. There was a lot of design quarterback run in Ole Miss's game plan.
That's what I want to see.
Really well.
I mean, I've asked for it over and over again, but I want to see that number, design quarterback runs upwards, plus 10 for sure, and probably closer to 14, 15. Because why would you not have your best runner run the ball?
Yeah, and in this game too, what I noticed was against Ole Miss, Harold Perkins was rarely the quarterback spy. Was occasionally, but rarely. It was usually Whit Weeks. So as much as talk about Perkins and just the variety in which he's used, Whit Weeks is going to get a lot of LaNorris Sellers too. And the matchup of those two linebackers and how they are deployed against LaNorris Sellers specifically is the one thing, just as a football fan, like just a lover of the game of college football, is incredibly exciting to watch. An amazingly appealing matchup.
I'm gonna have to put a period right there. Shane also said this, and I did not know this. The Weeks brothers.
Oh, buddy. There's 3 of them.
I didn't realize this.
There's 3 of them. There is Whit, there is West, and there's another brother that does not have a W name who is
Zach.
the youngest.
I'm seeing Zach.
Yes. So there's a Zach, Whit, and West.
Okay.
There are 3 of them.
All of them play for LSU.
And their dad was a center at Georgia. They're from right around the Athens area.
How did that happen?
That's a really good question.
It sounds like we need to do some investigation.
It does sound like that. Either that or, again, they do play in Louisiana. Voodoo is real.
Okay. All right. I heard
that is a further proof of concept that voodoo is real.
Yeah, I was only familiar with Whit. So now I have to see maybe there's a reason for that. But I do know Whit is really good.
And Whit's the middle brother.
Really?
He's the best one. He's the best of the 3. But all 3 of them can play.
Wow.
So when you see a Weeks on the LSU defensive side of the ball, it could be one of 3 different dudes. So maybe another difficult part of preparing for LSU. Now, there was some Gamecock news yesterday. 1 player leaves. But does that mean there is opportunity for another player to step up and get a bigger role in this team? We'll discuss that next.
Hey, Columbia, looking for the best gear to tackle your lawn? Well, Cato's Power Equipment has been family-owned and serving the Midlands since 1983. That's over 40 years. And they serve everyone from weekend warriors to professional landscapers. Third-generation owner Ben Cato provides top-notch service, great deals, and the mom-and-pop values that you love. Ben is determined to raise the standard of sales, service, and retail. At Cato's, they are proud to offer a wide selection of new and pre-owned mowers, tractors, and more. So if you're ready to invest in something new, the friendly team is there to make the process easy, help you choose the right equipment, find financing options, and keep your gear running strong with expert service and parts. So whether you're a weekend warrior or a seasoned landscaping pro, Cato's has got you covered. So swing by Cato's Power Equipment today or call them at 803-254-3711. That's Cato's Power Equipment at 803-254-3711.
Good traffic flow this morning, not any major slowdowns at this point, so we will welcome that. We also welcome 84-degree temperatures one more day this week. Maybe an afternoon or evening thunderstorm is a possibility. Again, high of 84 today. Tomorrow, 74 will be our high. Overnight low of 54. So tomorrow morning might be a little different. Might need a little jacket going, especially because it's going to be a bit windy. Friday, partly cloudy, 72. Winds will still be up just a little bit, really, through Saturday. Right now, though, it's 67 on 107.5 The Game.
Last year, the South Carolina Gamecocks had a midseason departure. Bengali Kamara left to preserve a red shirt after 4 games, hopped in the transfer portal, and is now playing for Lance Leipold at Kansas. History has repeated itself. No, Bengali Kamara is not leaving Kansas, but tight end Michael Smith has left the program and is going to preserve a redshirt year this year and go into the transfer portal. Preston Thorne, 3.5, 4 months ago, you told us this was going to happen. We were like, you'd be like, oh my God, you'd be stunned. And you'd be like, that's bad news. Because we expected Michael Smith to have a breakout year. I still vividly remember us during SEC Media Days talking about, is he the leader of that tight end room? How big of a part can he be of this offense in the passing game? The answer turned out to be minimal. He's a marginal part of this passing game, or I guess I should now say was a marginal part of this passing game. I am a lot more excited about this news. Wish Michael Smith well. I think there's a lot of talent there. There's some untapped potential that I think he can still get into. But does this mean there is Mo Brown?
I think it does. It has to.
It has to.
It has to, because there's only so many bodies. And let me preface anything that I'm about to say in this segment with, I have no inside information. I want to make sure everybody understands that. So anything I say, I have no inside information. I'm just going off of what I saw, what I've read, and where we are. Context clues. But the first throw of the game of the season was to who?
Mo Brown.
He was not expected to be the breakout tight end. And I thought that was very interesting. I was like, wow, that's interesting. What's going on with that? And then you heard Shane speak very as candidly as you can as a coach, essentially saying practice matters around here, referring directly to Michael Smith.
Yep.
As to why he didn't get so many snaps in the first game. I assume, based on that statement, based on his number of snaps, that Michael Smith did not have a good camp. Why did he not have a good camp? I don't know. Could have been him. Could have been his relationship with the coaches. Anything could be going on. But something obviously did not go the way everybody planned for them to end up here at this station. And it's like when people get a divorce, man. I don't know. Is it unfortunate? I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing.
For some, it is a good thing.
This might be the best thing for everybody involved. But what I do know is that Shane has explicitly stated that once a player crosses that bridge and saying that they want to redshirt, then you are done. You can't walk in there and tell the coaches what you want to do.
Yeah.
So once you decide, because that's what Bengali did last year. He's like, I think I want a red shirt this year. And Shane was like, nah, that's not.
Oh, you want a red shirt? Okay, well, it's nice knowing you.
Yeah, it's done. And that's fair. I think that's fair, because you can't have somebody on the team dictating what they want to do when the team has goals. So hopefully it's a mutual, quote unquote, mutual thing, and everybody's going the direction, and you wish them well, you wish them well, and everybody goes their separate ways. But I think it's only unfortunate because we had heard of Michael Smith. We followed his recruitment. he was going to be an athlete in the tight end spot. Showed some flashes last year.
He did, certainly.
And again, something did not add up this year because he did not play very much early. And Shane specifically talked about practice mattering, and there was a disconnect somewhere. So we'll see. Again, I say that with no inside information.
Yes, and that's really the fairest takeaway you can have, right? Because more than likely, we're not going to get really to the bottom as to why this ended up being the case. But, I mean, you saw the decline in snaps. You saw the decline in targets, especially considering what we might have anticipated in terms of an increase in snaps and targets and just being a more focal part of the offense. But we've seen Brady Hunt get more targets now that he's healthier than last year. Jordan Dingle has become a bigger part of the passing game.
Yep.
And we saw, again, that first play there you alluded to, Mo Brown. Mo Brown has been a part of the passing game more this year than last year. And I think now that we've established Mo Brown as the coolest player on the team, that has no actual impact on the game plan, but he is, Shane Beamer did say he is the most physical, violent runner that they have, and that's why they wanted to get him the ball on the first play of the game. And I think that tells you at least what they think about Mo Brown as somebody with the ball in his hand. And if that means we get to see more of it, I think that might be a net positive. We'll go to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Joe is on the line. Joe, good morning. Welcome to the early game.
Hey, good morning, fellas. When I first saw that breaking news, it popped up on my notifications. And so I think Michael, he jumped too much of the Kool-Aid, man. He saw that Joshua Simon was moving on, and everybody was hyping him up to be the next guy to be the tight end, man. And I don't know if he took it lightly that, it's going to be my job. I don't have to fight anybody for it. He seems like a diva kind of guy to me. You remember, especially when you were saying about T.J. Sanders, that he didn't like to play the run or he didn't like to rush the quarterback. There was, certain things about him. I just don't think Michael Smith wants to get his nose put in when it comes to blocking. He had a guy who was holding him accountable for being a blocker before he's being a catcher in our tight end coach. I didn't see it coming, but I thought that Juwan Howard would be the first one to go into the portal. That's a whole nother conversation. But, you have to give a coach more of a reason to look at you than to not look at you. And so hold yourself accountable for what you need to do when it comes to practicing and making that coach say, hey, I have to put this guy on the field. For whatever reason, I'm going to put him out there because he's putting in the work to get out here in the field. If you don't do that, then you get exactly what expected from a person who doesn't work hard at their position. And that's the bottom line, man.
Yeah.
So, I hate that he's leaving, but, it's part of the days that we have going on when it comes to the portal. This is what you got to look at every year. This is sad. I hate to see the guy leave, but, hey, if you don't want to put in the work to be the best at your position, then, hey, man, best of luck to you. See you later.
Yeah, and that's ultimately the team has to move on because they have goals they want to reach too. And appreciate your call, Joe. And Michael Smith probably has his goals. Team has theirs. And if they don't align, then no reason for you to be here.
Yeah, and again, with no inside information, but saying that when Michael was recruited, he was more in the realm of a Travis Kelce type of tight end, not in the realm of an inline Gronk George Kittle type of dude. And so his profile was never like, hey, I'm gonna stick my face in the fan. That never was part of his makeup. So I have no inside information, but you may not be wrong on that, Joe.
No Bubba Franks, I guess.
No. That was never part of his DNA.
Back to the AAA Heating Air phone line. Steve, we got a 1 minute for you. What's up?
I hate to see the kid go, but for me, I think it's a player development problem in UFC football. Because I remember treating Bobby Lott, we went through a whole lot to get him here. Once they found out a weakness in him, then he was not on the field a lot. He's on the field when they're supposed to be in the game because of injuries. I just think it's a player development problem there. And I wish the young man best of luck.
Yeah. Appreciate your call,
Appreciate
Steve.
the call, Steve. Again, these situations, it could be a situation where it's oil and water. Maybe it just doesn't mix. Maybe he'll do better somewhere else, or he'll be in a better spot. Or maybe they didn't figure out a way to utilize his actual talents that he has. I don't know. But thankfully, there is this option because in years past, he would have had to toil.
You'd be stuck,
and maybe become cancerous to the team, or it could have been a lot of situations. So it's the best option for everybody.
That's right. Yeah, he can ultimately go whatever he wants to do on offense, but might more align with what type of player he is. Or it's a fresh start is needed. Maybe he's just having a bad year, and a fresh start is needed. It could be a litany of different things. Coming up next, before we get Preston Thorne out of here, we got to send some people on the line. And there are plenty of candidates to choose from. We're going to put some folks on the line coming up next.
Man, hey, let's just go and get on the line right now, man.
My patience is running thin. You're all running out of time. You was late to my practice, sir? Everybody on the line.
Man, come on.
Bars.
Everybody on the line. And there, I have a couple of units to put on the line.
Whole squads.
Yeah, not just some whole squads here,
I
right?
like it.
So we're going to put some folks on the line. Where do we want to start this one, Preston? I'll give you the first crack at it.
Ooh, well, you know what? Arizona Cardinals, come here. Arizona Cardinals, come here. Emmanuel DeMarcado, what are you doing? You turned a 71-yard touchdown into a 72-yard turnover. We have coached this over and over and over again. Run through the line, break the tape, score, get all the way. For doing it, not only for doing it once, but doing it a week after you just had it done. Emmanuel DeMarcado, get on the line.
Oh, that was the first one I had too. Before I put, we'll stick with the units here, okay? Big Ten coaches complaining about travel to the West Coast or vice versa, specifically Lincoln Riley and James Franklin. Again, kind of like dropping the ball before the goal line. It's back-to-back weeks. Lincoln Riley did it after the Illinois loss. James Franklin did it after that ugly UCLA loss, where they both traveled cross-country to play a game and lose. Look, don't complain about travel when you're taking that check. If only this was something you knew was going to happen when you decided as a league to invite the 4 West Coast schools into your league, or vice versa, in Lincoln Riley's perspective. You knew this was going to happen when your school agreed to join a conference where its charter members are 3 time zones away. This is not rocket science. This is not some unforeseeable event. This was incredibly predictable. And now you're blaming losses on travel, but still happily taking that check?
Get on the line. Yeah.
Oh, terrible.
Lincoln
Lame
Riley
as hell.
and James Franklin, 2 people I would love to see on the line at all times. That's just
At
me
all
personally.
times,
Anytime
yes.
they can get on the line, I'm perfectly okay with it. But I'm not finished with the Arizona Cardinals. Jonathan Gannon, come here, son. Come here, sir. Listen, I know times have changed. I know it's a different time in coaching. I know I played for a coach who famously grabbed somebody by the face mask and brought him to his nose and said, "You come here." And that was a part of the things that we used to do as coaches. But Jonathan Gannon, we can't do that anymore. You cannot put your hands on the players. I know you got fined $100,000, but that doesn't exempt you. Jonathan Gannon, get on the line. You can yell, you can scream. You can't touch the players. Hey, I hear you. I hear you. I know your coach did it to you. I know it was a thing in the past. We can't do it today. It's 2025.
He looked like a man who was mad enough that he's coaching for his job.
And more so than that, you can be mad, but as the coach, you have to have some emotional stability, and you look like you were on the verge of losing it. And I don't blame you.
Don't blame me.
But you gotta hold it in the road.
Take a page out of the Coach Leach book where he went and he folded up all the chairs.
Yep.
There is no sitting on
There
the
we go. Do
sidelines.
something like that.
Yep.
Throw the chair, break a tablet. We can figure out other ways. You can't touch. I know coaches used to do that. I know what your coach did. 2025, we can't do it.
Other ways to take out that frustration. Plenty of other ways. I got to put Diego Pavia. No. I'm looking at you. Come here.
Don't care how pretty you think you are.
Nope. Don't care how pretty you think you are or how cool you think you sound. Buddy, you talk that mess, and that's why we like you. That's why you are a college football fan favorite, is because you do run that mouth, and you oftentimes back it up at a place where nobody can back it up. But, buddy, you cost your team the game. 2 red zone turnovers, 1 fumble, 1 pick. You talk that talk this summer. You cost your team the game, and now you want to yell at Alabama fans walking off the field? Yes, they're yelling at you. Yes, it's probably really annoying. I cannot imagine a place where I would be more annoyed on planet Earth than Bryant-Denny Stadium with a bunch of people that are drunk off Michelob yelling at me as I'm walking into the tunnel. I get it, but buddy, you asked for it. If you ask for this attention and you lose and you cost your team the game, you got to take it, brother. You got to take it. And for continuing to chirp with those people in the stands, get on the line.
Yeah, you can't do that, man. And also, hey, man, no lewd gestures. That's
like, come on.
That's overboard.
Yeah.
Use your words.
Yeah.
You're an adult. Diego.
You're a big boy.
You're a big boy.
And
Come
you get a
on.
lot of people and got a lot of kids that are watching
Yeah,
you.
you can't do that. You
No.
can't do that.
No,
Don't be dumb.
can't be doing that. And last thing too, I want to put a whole unit on the line because I thought I had 6.5 underdog challenge points in the bag when Maryland was up 20-0 on Washington going into the fourth quarter. Up 20-0. Washington scores 24 unanswered in a quarter. And Maryland always does this. They seemingly good in September. The month of October hits, and they implode. Maryland Terrapins, Mike Loxley.
Get on the line. Yeah, can't blow it.
Stuff.
That's what they do.
That's what they do. 803-404-6100 for the Firehouse Subs text line. Text us, tell us who you're putting on the line. Meanwhile, hour number 2 coming up next.
Listen, man, it's week 6. What you waiting for? It's time for you to call the folks at Integrated Media to get your setup ready. October is here. The fall weather is here. It's the perfect time to be sitting outside enjoying all of the sports. I believe Sports Equinox is on the way. You need to be ready for it. How can you be ready for it? You can get Samsung Terrace TVs that are waterproof, Sonos outdoor speakers for TV and music, Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors so you can have all your devices playing all the sports all the time with no lagging. Control all your devices from just one remote. From home theater setup to adjusting your thermostat or monitoring your security systems from your cell phone, Integrated Media is the company that you need to call. So call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. That's 803-948-8327. Or you can reach them online at integratedmediainc.com. That's online at integratedmediainc.com.
Just got back out of the helicopter. Things look pretty good right now. No accidents to report. Really, no major slowdowns at this point. So it was really good traffic flow so far this morning. 84, easy for me to say, today. And then we're going to be out of the 80s for a bit. Might see an afternoon thunderstorm today Then it cools down, gets a little bit windy, 74 tomorrow, overnight low of 54, so probably jacket weather tomorrow morning. Right now, 67.
Hour number 2 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. She's Jen Jensen. Here in about 30 minutes, Jordan Kay from the State newspaper will join me in studio. We'll get to hang out with Jordan from 7:30 up until we go off the air at 9. So Jordan will get to take part in They Are Who We Thought They Were.
Oh, nice.
Fun segment that we do. A lot to get to this hour.
Sorry, I just couldn't pot down the Van Halen, so.
Had to let it bump a little.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, that intro to that song.
We do, I will say, we have a collection of bumps that I wouldn't mind if they ran just underneath
Just a little bit longer.
for a little bit. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have a few that are pretty good. I'm going to keep trying to cycle some more in, but some of the ones we have, it's like, yeah, I just want to keep it going.
Well, yeah, when I had some news, I definitely created a Spotify playlist when we first got the show kind of together, and I was like, we can incorporate some of these.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Send them over.
Yeah. I'll just send you an invite to it.
I appreciate that.
You know, it's probably not good to have the playlist if I keep it to myself.
No.
I should probably share it.
You probably should share. Yeah.
Probably should share it a little bit. So, but hey, early game number 1 in the country with bumps, I would say.
I think so.
One of our strengths. One of the strengths of the South Carolina offense, though, which have not had many, when you rank the way they do in a lot of offensive statistical categories, there's not a lot of things where you can look at and say, we do that better than anyone else. But there's a couple things they do really well in the passing game. One of those is play action. Again, I have said it before that Lenora Sellers, 3rd in the country, behind only a quarterback from Air Force and Tommy Castellanos from Florida State in terms of play action efficiency. But that passing game, even in play action and outside of play action, have maybe found another receiving target that can make teams pay. Nick Harbor made Virginia Tech pay at the beginning of the year. Clark Lee told Cole Kublik before the Vanderbilt game that they are going to really hammer home to their defense the fact they don't want Nick Harbor to beat them. The defensive game plan when it came to defending South Carolina's passing attack was to make sure that number 8 was accounted for with Nick Harbor. So, in the last 2 games, from what I've been able to observe, other teams have kind of taken a page out of that playbook, and other teams have focused a lot on Nick Harbor. That has allowed Vandrevius Jacobs to really have a breakout last 2 games. Goes for over 100 yards in a score against Missouri. Goes for over 100 yards against Kentucky. Back-to-back really good games. And it's starting to become a trend with Vandrevius Jacobs. But how much of that can also be attributed to the fact that Nick Harbor maybe is being played a little bit different defensively? We know LSU's got a lockdown corner in Mansour Delane. Delane's probably going to draw the Nick Harbor assignment. So how differently are opponents playing Nick Harbor, and what is the true impact that it has on South Carolina's offense? I asked Shane Beamer that in the press conference yesterday, and here's what he responded with.
I saw Clark talking about it leading into our game, a comment he made just about always having a safety in the middle of the field to kind of help versus Nick on some of those deep balls. And then he mentioned the Virginia Tech game where, one of the very few times that Virginia Tech didn't have a safety in the middle of the field is when we threw the post for a touchdown. And that was towards the end of the game where we had some runs and they brought some safeties up to stop the run. So, yes, teams got to be aware of Nick, but that's great because, if you're doing that, we've got other receivers that continue to get better and develop. And then we've also, as we get this running game going even better, that helps the overall passing game in general. So, yeah, certainly when teams play us, it's hard not to notice number 8 for us out there just with his speed and his size. but that, we've got other guys that you've got to worry about, the quarterback, the running backs, tight ends, receivers, and that certainly helps others for sure. And Nick's done a great job of continuing to make an impact no matter what teams are trying to do to negate him.
And those other players that Shane alluded to, I mean, I think the one that you could say has benefited the most from that has been Vandrevis Jacobs, because Jacobs is a really good receiver. He's proven to be a solid route runner. He's been really good at contested catches, at finding soft spots in the zone to get himself open and to be able to catch the laser passes that Lenora Sellers throws to him. And he's become a really big part of this offense. The one thing I thought was really interesting within that response was the allusion to the Virginia Tech play with Nick. Because, yes, that was later in the game. Virginia Tech was really trying to sell out to stop the run. Lenore's was having a good game on the ground. You were having some success with Attaway, Faison. Faison busted out a 30-something yard run that almost converted like a 3rd and 33 earlier in the game. They were more successful on the ground in that game. And Virginia Tech, in that situation, thought it best to load up the box and try to stuff the run. Well, they move the safety in. That post is wide open. Lenora Sellers throws the bomb, and, of course, a corner on Nick Harbor going one-on-one oftentimes isn't going to win that foot race down the field. And they connected on that. And I think that play right there has a lot of teams scared to death to move safeties into the box against South Carolina because of that. That's why Clark Lee alluded to Cole Kublik in the SEC Network, that they want that safety help at all times. That takes attention. And that might be one of the reasons why Nick Harbor hasn't eclipsed that same statistical stat line that he had against Virginia Tech in maybe some of these other games, but maybe that's something that can allow someone like Vandrevis Jacobs to be able to step up. As important as Vandrevis Jacobs has been in these last 2 games, he might be more important on Saturday night. Because this LSU defense is no joke. If you listen to the first segment of this show, you can go back on YouTube, where I kind of broke down what I saw from LSU. And this kind of goes back to the course of the year. I've watched all of the Clemson game in its entirety, Florida in its entirety, Ole Miss in its entirety. The defense is as advertised. LSU defensively mirrors the numbers they've put out this year. They're top 10 defensively in SP+, top 10 in stop rate. They forced a lot of turnovers. They had forced 5 against Florida, all on interceptions, and then forced a couple of turnovers against Ole Miss. They're opportunistic. They're really good. They don't give up a ton of yards. They are as advertised. They have dudes, especially in that secondary, and a lot of them play really physical. I have a feeling they're going to want to do the same thing to Nick Harbor that Vanderbilt did to Nick Harbor, that maybe Kentucky tried to do to discourage throwing the ball that way. And if that's the case, what you've seen from Vandrevis Jacobs the last 2 games needs to be seen on Saturday, almost to the point where it's a non-negotiable to get that from Vandrevis Jacobs. Because LSU's corners, I'm telling you right now, they play physical. That's the one thing I noticed about LSU in that Ole Miss game specifically, was how physical they were on the boundary. A lot of defensive pass interferences. They'll take that risk. They'll dare officials to call it, which makes officiating, just like last year, going to be mightily important Saturday night.
So was your thoughts about the score for this Saturday, you might have had something in mind after watching some of those games with LSU we were watching yesterday. Has that changed? Is your feeling about the score prediction?
My score prediction changed maybe a little bit, but not by much. I still think it's going to be really, really low. Doing the quick math in my head, I don't think we eclipse 36 total points in this game.
Okay.
Because I think South Carolina's defense, I think what we saw from South Carolina's defense against Kentucky is probably more reflective of who they are than against Missouri and Vanderbilt, but just on a missed tackles front. Because again, like we've seen it, those 2 games were some of the worst tackling performances we've seen from a Gamecock defense in a long time, especially a Clayton White coach defense. That's 14 missed tackles against Vanderbilt, 16 against Missouri. In a 2-game stretch, you were averaging 15 missed tackles a game. Didn't happen against Kentucky. I think they cleaned some of that up. But we're going to really see if they've cleaned some of that up on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Even though LSU's offense isn't very good, they can be if you let them. If you miss tackles and you don't wrap up and you give them extra yards after the catch or after contact at the line of scrimmage, you can make an average offense really good. I think they're able to hold them a little bit. I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to give some gifts to South Carolina. I think Christmas might come a little early for that secondary.
Very nice.
Because as one thing about Garrett Nussmeier, he has been a lot more generous with the ball this year than he might have been last year. He did throw 12 picks last year, but he has been very generous with it so far this year. I do still think it's going to be a low-scoring game.
Okay.
So if you're someone like me who likes high-scoring action, maybe not the football game for you.
A little concerning, especially when you talk about their defense and how our offense has been inconsistent at best.
Inconsistent, yeah. And that's the thing. When I went back and watched that Ole Miss game, Jen, I was trying to really look and see what is replicable, right? Ole Miss did a lot of good stuff. I think Ole Miss almost got to 400 total yards of offense. They were really close. I don't know if they actually got to 400, but they were at 374 with about 5-ish minutes left in the game. And they only had one more drive after that. So I don't know if they actually got to 400 or not. But against that defense, that's a lot. And Ole Miss is one of the better offenses in college football. Maybe top 5. I don't know how many offensive units I'm taking above Ole Miss, but I'm telling you right now, it's not many. But they did keep Ole Miss out of the end zone when they needed to. And they limited some of the explosives. Again, not a lot of teams are going to limit Ole Miss. But LSU defensively, the thing is, there's just not a weak link, right? The defensive line's really good. They bat down a lot of passes. They're really good at stopping the run. The linebacker duo of Whit Weeks and Harold Perkins, probably the best you'll see this year. And Mansour Delane is maybe the most underrated cornerback in America. P.J. Woodland, the other corner, kind of gets the number 2 assignment, right? Got an interception in the game and was physical as hell doing so. He should have had 2 interceptions, but one was called defensive pass interference because he couldn't help but throw the receiver to the ground while the ball was in the air. Again, it's a physical unit on the defensive backs. Like, for instance, Vandrevis Jacobs. Probably going to see a lot of P.J. Woodland in this game. And he's going to have to be a physical receiver and kind of match that physicality.
So it might have been better that we did have the bye week before this game rather than after this game.
Definitely.
Okay.
Because I know how many times have you heard bye week couldn't have come at a better time?
Right.
I think if we all had $1 for every time we heard that in football season.
Yeah. We'd be doing okay.
Yeah, we'd be doing pretty good, right? I don't think I've ever heard somebody say the bye week did not come at a good time. Like, oh, it's the worst time for a bye week. Rarely hear that, right? Maybe there are some extenuating circumstances that could lead someone to say it. But for this game specifically, because it is going to be such a battle of physicality on that side of the ball in a very hostile environment, a week's rest to rest up is going to be good, especially for Carolina's offensive line. And that's one thing we haven't really talked about yet this week that I think we're going to be talking about a whole lot more as we get closer to game day, is you are without 2 offensive line starters. Now, Nolan Hayes started one game for you, but he missed the Kentucky game. Cason Henry also missed the Kentucky game. LSU's got really good pass rushers. Patrick Payton is on the field to do 2 things: rush the passer and deflect passes at the line of scrimmage. Maybe not the best in run defense, but the guy can get to the quarterback. Jack Pyburn, who they got from Florida, brought in to rush the quarterback. Harold Perkins, when he decides to blitz, when they decide to use him to blitz, because they will do it, can get to the quarterback. Whit Weeks, when they blitz him, can get to the quarterback. They dial up creative blitzes. They do a really good job. If you played this game last week and you didn't have a full offensive line, yes, the offensive line hasn't been great at all this year, but you want them to be as healthy as possible if you want to even eclipse 10 points on offense, because that defensive unit is as advertised.
Okay. Feeling really good.
Thanks, I feel great about it.
Yeah.
But that's maybe where defense and special teams come in. Maybe I will say, though, if you get a defensive score in this game, again, not something we want to bank on every game, but if you get a defensive score in this game, it can go a long way, because I can see this game being within 10 points for really most of it. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, the early game morning meeting and MLB playoff update. One team is one game away from doing something they have not done since 2001. We'll tell you who that is next.
Hey, you looking for a countertop for a kitchen or bath, or maybe just wanting to do some updating in your yard with some hardscaping? Well, I have the place, Carolina Stone Craftsman, just outside Columbia in Chapin. They understand kitchen and bath projects can be a significant investment, and they really do work hard to deliver the highest quality and most affordable granite, marble, and quartz while still providing the best customer service. It's simple. It's great countertops with no compromises. You need to visit to see exactly what I mean. Explore the craftsmanship of each slab, see their one-of-a-kind indoor showroom, and I really do encourage you to reach out and take a look at their outdoor showroom to see their custom hardscape creativity. You will be so impressed and very much inspired. If you're in the market for countertops for kitchen or bath, I do encourage you to reach out to Carolina Stone Craftsman and tell them Jen Jensen sent you. They are family owned and operated just beyond Columbia and Chapin, and I assure you, beyond your expectations. Visit them online, carolinastonecraftsman.com. I was speaking so highly of the traffic situation out there that I think I kind of jinxed things a little bit. One accident to make you aware of, and that's Two Notch Road at North Grampian Hills Road. Last day of 80s for a bit, 84 for the high today. We're looking for maybe some afternoon or evening thunderstorms. Could be coming in sometime around lunch or a little bit after lunchtime. And then to tomorrow, the overnight low actually, tomorrow's the high 74, overnight low of 54. It's going to be windy tomorrow, so probably jackets the remainder of the week as far as heading out in the morning. Right now, 67 on 107.5 The Game.
As we have promised to do during the morning meeting, we will keep you updated on the Major League Baseball playoffs because one team is one game away from doing something they haven't done since 2001. So that being said, hit it, Jen.
Good morning. Good morning. Repeat after me. Today will be an awesome day. Let's go. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day.
Yes, it will, because we're actually getting closer to the sports equinox, which is one of my favorite parts of the calendar year. It's when we get playoff baseball, college football, NFL. Hockey started last night. The NBA starts soon. We can get all sports happening at once. It is rare. It only happens 1 or 2 nights a year, but we're getting close to that sports equinox. But part of that equation is playoff baseball, and we told you we'd keep you updated. And we'll start off with the team that is one game away from making history. The Seattle Mariners beat the Detroit Tigers last night 8-4 after starting the series down 1-0, losing game 1 at home. They beat the presumed AL Cy Young winner Tariq Skubal. And then they go to Detroit last night. And Logan Gilbert, again, we told you during the primer, if you like really good pitching staffs, the Seattle Mariners team is for you. Logan Gilbert last night, 7 strikeouts, no walks in 6 innings, only gives up 4 hits. Jen Jensen. And they beat the Detroit Tigers 8-4.
Jeez.
And you hear this music right now. The title of this is also the last time the Seattle Mariners were in the American League Championship Series.
That's phenomenal.
2001. And to take you back in the time machine a little bit, you're like, Elijah, that Seattle Mariners team, they must have been really good in 2001. Not only were they really good, maybe the most underachieving postseason team of all time, because the 2001 Seattle Mariners went 116-46. They won 116 games in the regular season.
What?
And lost in the ALCS to the New York Yankees in 5 games. Dope! Classic. But for those you
That's a Cub thing.
there is some classic names on this roster. Because I was telling Preston this before the show, and he goes, I must have memory hold that baseball team. I don't remember them at all. That was rookie Ichiro, who was rookie of the year and the MVP. Mike Cameron, one of the coolest players in the history of baseball. David Bell at third base, Carlos Guillen, Brett Boone, John Olerud. That was kind of the batting lineup, some of the highlights there. Freddie Garcia, the ace on that pitching staff. A baseball team that won 116 games, did not make it to the World Series. Again, the Seattle Mariners have never played in a World Series. They have an opportunity to make it back to the ALCS for the first time in 24 years if they're able to close out one of the potentially next 2 games. If you're a New York Yankees fan, like our friend Nick Harvey and Leo Baldwin over at B106, you get to live to fight another day. They beat the Blue Jays last night 9-6 at home to force at least a game 4. So they will not get swept. They have a chance to be able to send this thing to 5. Couple of highlights, I guess, of the game. Aaron Judge did homer and had an RBI double. So if you want to know what one of the best players in the league did with his team facing elimination, Aaron Judge goes 3 for 4 with 4 RBI and, of course, that home run. So that's your Major League Baseball update. We have a guest here in the early game morning meeting. That's one Brian Kelly. No, he's not joining us, but we're going to hear from Brian Kelly because he spoke earlier in the week. And if you look at LSU this year, one of the question marks has been, why has Garrett Nussmeier struggled? Well, this will be cut 3 from yesterday, Jen. This is kind of Brian Kelly assessing where Garrett Nussmeier is right now and what his health is like going into this game on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, he's like I said, I mean, he's feeling better and better. You know, we didn't do a lot with him last week. We wanted to use that as a recovery week for him. You know, obviously he did a lot with VR, he stayed involved in everything that we're doing, run game checks, blitz checks, things of that nature. But we just cut him down from, you know, the throwing. And you know, obviously we're going to go out today. We'll get a bonus day in terms of being able to practice today. So
Our expectations after talking to him is he feels good and he's ready to go.
So a lot of work that he did there in the bye week. We'll see where he's at in terms of health. Obviously, his injury from the beginning of the season or during, I guess, camp, not enough to keep him off the field. But I do believe that maybe some issues he might be having with his oblique might be causing some accuracy issues because he certainly has not looked as accurate as he did last year. More off-target throws, still throwing the ball into coverage, which isn't an oblique injury thing. That's up in your noggin type thing. That's a decision-making thing. Something to monitor in terms of what type of throws he's going to be able to make on Saturday. Now, LSU's defense, again, we've talked it up, as good as advertised. They stand out on film. They stand out on the stat sheet. But what do they need to do to stop Lenore Sellers? Because I think we can all agree, you've watched this team, the key to South Carolina reaching any of their goals that they set out at the beginning of the year will hinge upon how good Lenore Sellers is. So this will be cut 5. This is what Brian Kelly said in response to being asked about stopping a quarterback like LaCounce.
I mean, that's the first question that you would expect to hear. Last year, Sellers, when he was in, hurt us running the football. So first and foremost, we have to have a plan in place to stop the quarterback run. And then you got to keep him in the pocket. He operates best when he's outside the pocket. So, discipline in our pass rush lanes, having a solid scheme up front to take away the quarterback run, and then, let him be who he is, right? I mean, he's a quarterback with great talent. He makes plays outside the pocket down the field. We've got to avoid the big chunk plays that are not scripted. And so, he's a major focus of what we're doing this week.
I found it interesting. It says we got to avoid the big chunk plays that are not scripted. Again, South Carolina has, on multiple occasions this year, scored on the opening drive of the game, usually the scripted drives. But then after that is sometimes when the offense has stalled out in a few games. Took a little while for them to find the end zone again on offense in that Virginia Tech game. It took them a little bit. They did not find the end zone again after scoring a touchdown the opening drive against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt did a really good job in non-scripted plays, keeping Lenore Sellers in check until Lenore's got hurt, and then Luke Doty ended up playing the whole second half. But you get the gist there. Obviously, that is going to be a big part for LSU to try to stop Lenore Sellers. How much we see of him in terms of running the ball, we'll see on Saturday, but I think we can all agree that if Lenoris runs the ball like he did against Kentucky, he's going to give you a chance to win that game. Talked about LSU and that defense and how impressive they've been this year. They're really high in a stat that I value called stop rate. I'll explain what stop rate is, and I'll tell you where South Carolina's at, and spoiler alert, it's not very good. I'll break that down next on the early game. Look, it's early October right now. We're getting really close, because it'll be here before you know it, right? Thanksgiving season, holiday season, the time where you start hosting a whole lot more, and there's so much stress. I know I get insanely stressed, and I'm probably a pain in the tail to deal with whenever I do get stressed about cleaning my home when people come to visit. But Zero Res takes a lot of that stress away from me, and not just because of the carpet cleaning. They can also offer upholstery cleaning, so you wouldn't let your in-laws, sit on a dingy sofa. I don't think I would either. I do not want my girlfriend's mom sitting on a dingy sofa. So they also help with upholstery cleaning. They're very versatile. And right now, Zero Res has a deal for you in the month of October. Just mention my name, Elijah Campbell, 107.5 The Game, and you can get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned for only $119. Go ahead, get ahead of the cleaning today and book online at ZeroResColumbia.com.
Fairmount Drive at Leesburg Road, an accident there. Two Notch Road at North Grampian Hills Road, also a slowdown due to an earlier tie-up. 84, that's going to be our high today. Expecting maybe some rain or storms coming in a little bit after lunch. And then tomorrow will be more windy, but the rain will be gone. 74 for the high. Overnight low Thursday night into Friday, 54. So might have some jacket weather in the mornings. Friday, 72 for the high. But right now it's a little bit overcast, 67 on 107.5 The Game.
Time to break down one of my favorite stats and see where South Carolina is in that category. That is defensive stop rate. I'm Elijah Campbell. She's Jen Jensen in the studio with us now for the first time in studio.
Woo.
Friend of the show, Jordan Kay from the State newspaper. Jordan, good to have you on where I actually get to see you.
I know. Thanks, guys, for having me. This is great.
Yeah. The late call up, it's like, hey, man, I know late notice, but if you want to come hang out with us in the morning.
I'm usually not this early, and I was driving, seeing cars. I'm like, what are these people doing? Why are they up this early?
I'm telling you, yeah. Jen will tell you, it took me a little bit to get accustomed to coming in here.
It takes time.
Yeah, it was interesting.
There's still, I'm not going to lie, still when that alarm goes off around like 4:15, there's about a good 15-minute self-loathing period that kind of sets in. But once my feet are on the ground, I'm fine. That's one thing I've learned. Once my feet are on the ground and I'm walking around, I wake up a little bit.
Now, what should scare you a little bit is I've been doing it for 10 years, and this is what I look like. So just that doesn't bode well for you. That's just what I'm saying. But, you know.
I do notice some more gray hairs every day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
A little bit, especially like in the beard. A little bit. A couple more popping up that used to.
Don't know if it's the show or the age, but just saying.
It could be a combination.
Yeah. But you do get used to it, sort of.
Exactly. Yeah. It is grown on me. It is grown on me. But we have fun here.
I was saying, but once you come in here, it's like, you know, this is a cool space to be in. And we got great people and a good show. So
yeah,
makes it pretty fun.
We have a whole lot. But I said it before the break. I was looking at yesterday because ESPN's Max Olson did the math so we didn't have to. Looking at defensive stop rate. Now, LSU top 10 in the country. Number 8, right? A whole big theme of the show this morning, Jordan, has been the LSU defense is as good as advertised. But I wanted to see where South Carolina was in stop rate. And for those who don't know, stop rate is pretty simple. It's just dividing the amount of defensive possessions you have by the amount of times your defensive possession ends in a punt, turnover, or turnover on downs. Just how many times do you get stops and the other team is not putting points up on the board? LSU, again, top 10 in the country, very high. South Carolina is at 58.5%. LSU is 8th at 79.1. It's a pretty steep drop-off. South Carolina's ranking in the country in stop rate, 84th.
A lot of that, I feel like, goes back to the Missouri game where they just could not stop Ahmad Hardy in the Tigers running game. And I think that probably skewed a little bit of it when you start looking at the bigger picture of everything. Because you think back to the Virginia Tech game, and, I mean,
dominant.
Yeah, they were fantastic in that. But, yeah, the Mizzou and Vanderbilt game is definitely skewing that a little bit. But, I mean, your point holds up that this LSU defense is ridiculous. And round at, you know, LSU coverage and websites and their fan base right now, it mirrors what South Carolina's going through. I mean, these are two fan bases that are like apoplectic over their offense.
Over how the offense looks.
And then, but it's like, well, the defense probably will hold up. And it's like, are we in for like a 7-6 game?
It feels like we're in for a defensive slugfest. But what you said about the stop rate for Carolina's defense holds up. Because I was like, you know what? How much of that number is skewed by the Missouri game? So I went back and looked. And I went through every single drive and did the math. And I double-checked it. And I used a calculator, so rest assured, it is correct. So again, to give you a perspective, right? LSU is 8th in the country at stop rate at 79.1. Number 1 in the country is Texas Tech. They, as of right now, they have the best stop rate in America, and theirs is at 85.5. Just to give you an idea of what elite looks like, right? And what really good looks like. Against Virginia Tech, South Carolina stop rate 78.2. Really good. That would be good for top 10 in the country. South Carolina State, it was 83.3%. What you'd expect against an FCS opponent. Now, mind you, I found out by doing the math that Max does not include your games against FCS. This is only FBS versus FBS opponents that are baked into this equation.
Gotcha.
In those 2 games specifically, Carolina was 78.2% and at less than a point per drive, which is an elite number to be at. Well, then we get to the Vanderbilt game, and that number dips to 47.3.
Yeah, which doesn't help either that Vanderbilt didn't have very many possessions. So
they didn't.
It was
only
just
9.
Yeah. Hey, you score on almost half of them.
Yeah.
You know, you don't even have to put up that many points, and your number is going to look really bad.
Just kidding. I read that wrong. 44.4% was the Vanderbilt game. 4 out of 9. They have 4 stops and 9 possessions. And then against Missouri, you had 5 stops and 10 possessions. We can all do that math. That's 50%. Those 2 games combined is 47.3%. Heavily anchoring it down. No pun intended for Vanderbilt. And then the Kentucky game, you're at 70% because you had 7 stops on 10 defensive possessions. When I first saw that number, it was jarring, right? Because I was like, they're probably top 50. But to see them at 84, I thought was a little surprising because they're in the neighborhood of, they're tied with Minnesota. Ahead of them is Middle Tennessee State, Hawaii, Navy, Jacksonville State, UTSA, Duke, Kansas State, and a lot of schools that you'd look at and be like, oh, God.
Yeah. And it's hard because I guess we're still early enough in the season where we're wondering, were the Vanderbilt and Missouri games anomalies, or is that South Carolina? And it's hard because the Kentucky game, I don't know, is the best barometer. It's like probably the worst SEC team this year. And so you
feel good about that one.
Against a passing offense that can't do anything against anyone.
No.
And so you're looking at it like, okay, is that South Carolina's defense? Is it the one we saw against Kentucky? You know, basically being able to pin their ears back and go get Cutter Boley? Or is it the South Carolina defense we saw against the 2 semi-decent SEC teams we saw where they couldn't make a tackle and seemingly got run over every game? And I don't know the answer right now. And I don't even know that we're going to figure it out against LSU because this LSU defense or offense hasn't really proven anything. And you go look at what Garrett Nussmeier has done. All of his numbers are far worse in 2025 than they were in 2024. And this LSU offense is very similar, has a very similar struggles to what South Carolina has. So, I mean, it might be 2 weeks before we really have a good feel for what this South Carolina defense can do.
And that's the thing, too. I was like, is this defense maybe bad offense merchants, right? So I went and looked at the SP Plus ranking on offense for the teams they've played so far. In those games where they were well above acceptable in stop rate, Virginia Tech ranks 83rd in offensive SP Plus. Obviously, South Carolina State not on the rankings because FCS. Kentucky 71 in offensive SP Plus. Vanderbilt, Missouri, both top 15. Vanderbilt's at 15, Missouri's at 13. And for reference, LSU is at 40 right now. So again, you won't be able to tell as much, but that's at least against a top 40 offense. If they struggle against them, then I think we have some more signs for concern on that side of the ball, especially if they come in the form of missed tackles.
That's the big thing because for as bad as, you know, South Carolina's defense looked in a couple of games, like they have been able to force turnovers, and that just hasn't always led to winning. But, you know, you look at the Kentucky game, even going to Virginia Tech, I mean, they're forcing turnovers, and they just haven't really capitalized on them too much, except in the games against bad teams.
Yeah, and they getting a lot of defensive scores. Not a lot of teams can bank on getting those defensive scores, but when you get them, they're really big. I think they'll be able to force some turnovers because Garrett Nussmeier loves throwing the ball into coverage.
Yeah, they're going to get it. I mean, heck, they did it last year. What'd they have?
They did.
At least two interceptions. Might have been another one that I just can't remember. But that game was basically felt like South Carolina's defense was going to win it for them until it didn't.
Until it didn't.
Until the whistle started blowing and Nick Emori looks back and sees a yellow flag. So, yeah, South Carolina is going to be able to force turnovers. It's going to be able to probably have a pretty decent percentage in the red zone of forcing LSU to kick field goals. The question is it going to be able to stop LSU's rushing attack? Because I'm guessing Brian Kelly is looking at the same things we're looking at and saying, hey, guys, our quarterback doesn't really look 100%. South Carolina cannot stop good rushing teams. Like, why don't we just keep running the ball down their throat? They're also facing the same question in South Carolina of, hey, can we rush it? And so you kind of have that matchup going on.
Coming up next, one of my favorite segments of the week, we'll channel our inner Denny Green and say they are who we thought they were. Next.
Bears, the Bears are what we thought they were. What we thought they were. We played them in preseason. Who the hell takes a third game in the preseason like it's bull? We played them in the third game. Everybody played 3 quarters. The Bears are who we thought they were. And that's why we took the damn field. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were.
In 2006, Dennis Green said the Chicago Bears are who he thought they were. And every week on Wednesday, we tell you who in football is who we thought they were at the beginning of the season. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Jordan Kay. She's Jen Jensen. And Jordan, I couldn't think of a more appropriate team to start this segment off than North Carolina. Whew. I think we knew they were going to be bad. They're only showing exactly how much of a clown show become, not just the results on the field. Losing every game that they've played against Power 4 opponents by at least 24 points. But, buddy, the off-season circus it became has now become an in-season circus, and it feels like every single day there's something else that's coming out about that program that is just violating college football norms in a bad way, not in a, being innovative way, but in a bad way. So Bill Belichick and the North Carolina Tar Heels, well, they get the Denny Green Award because they are who we thought they were.
That's a great one. Hulu show canceled. Players getting reprimanded for selling tickets. This is all in like a 12-hour span. That's a great one. You are who we thought you were. Penn State. Come on down. Oh, baby. James Franklin. The knock on James Franklin was always, can't win the big game. And then he goes to UCLA and shows you can't win the bad game either. And the problem I have with James Franklin after is he complains about the travel. Buddy, you guys did this to yourself. Do not go up on the podium after losing to UCLA and complain to the travel a week after Oregon flies 3,000 miles and kicks the crap out of you. So James Franklin and Penn State, you are who we thought you were.
Yeah. Oh, man. That is one of my biggest pet peeves in college football right now. Because, don't take that money. Don't take that money that you got from adding those 4 West Coast teams and then cry to me about the travel. It's going to fall upon deaf ears, especially when you're more than a 3-touchdown favorite. You are a 4-score favorite against a team that has not led in a game against Northwestern, against Utah, which Utah, good, but also didn't lead at any point in the 2 Mountain West games against 2 Mountain West teams. And they found a way to not just beat you, but put up 42 points on a defense that is loaded with NFL talent. Don't want to hear it. Another team, in a positive light of you are who we thought you were, Texas Tech. Paid a lot of money. Cody Campbell, the bag man to end all bag men. They're getting what they paid for because in a league where the Big 12, where most everybody is pretty good, no great teams, maybe they've shown that they are a great team in that conference because I didn't think we'd have a clear front runner in this conference this early in the season. But Texas Tech dominates at the line of scrimmage. It's not just the fancy air raid. It's not the fancy things you know Texas Tech to be. They dominate on both lines of scrimmage. It's become impressive to see.
Yeah, that's a good one. We'll see with the Big 12. I feel like there's going to be some more shakeup.
It's going to get weird.
Mine, Miami.
Oh.
Miami with a 28-22 win was not that close. Florida State scored 19 garbage time points. But this Miami team, I have always been a guy who I do not trust Mario Cristobal teams at all. I just feel like they always fade down the season. They always have great interior line play, but just they can't figure it out. He kind of just bites himself in the butt all the time. But this Hurricanes team just absolutely dominate. They are pushing guys around on the offensive and defensive lines. And it feels like in an ACC where Clemson's down, this could be a Miami team that just rolls to the playoff.
Yeah, easily. It might do it in maybe some more dominant fashion. We've seen a team in that league do it, and that's usually a league that just isn't very deep at all on a year-to-year basis. Last one before we go out here, Navy. Now, you might be like, Elijah, why Navy? Why Navy getting the Dennis Green Award? Well, because I figured they'd easily be the best service academy team. They're now one leg away from securing the Commander-in-Chief trophy. But quarterback Blake Horvath specifically right? A guy that if you looked at a lot of preseason lists and who the best quarterbacks in college football were, you'd see towards the top. He threw for 339, a Navy quarterback throwing for 339 against Air Force. He is now on pace to become only the second Navy quarterback in program history to throw for 2,000 yards in a single season. The other, fun fact, Jim Kubiak, and he did it twice in 1993 and 1994. That is 2 hours in the books. Hour number 3 coming up. We'll read your submissions on who needs to get on the line, and we'll also break down some of LSU's offensive struggles and whether or not Carolina can take advantage of that. That's next.
Two Notch Road near North Grampian Hills Road. We'll find an accident there. Also working Fairmont Drive at Leesburg Road and Cedar Crest Drive at Highway 1. Going to see some rain coming in this afternoon, sometime maybe after lunch. We'll top out today at 84, overnight low of 62. Tomorrow it's going to be windy, 74 for the high, but definitely cooler going into Friday morning, overnight low of 54. It's going to be 72 on Friday, still a little bit on the breezy side as well, and then mid-70s for the weekend. But right now, it's a little bit overcast, and we are sitting at 67 on the early game.
Hour number 3 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. She's Jen Jensen. And in studio with us for the first time from the state newspaper, Jordan Kay. We have a full house here. No Preston for the rest of the show, but Jordan's coming in to pitch relief, if you will. Got him out of the bullpen, coming in here for the last hour and a half
Next
of
man
the show.
up.
That's right. It's this show, like any good team, it's next man up mentality at all times. And then once the show ends, I got to catch a plane. So we're going to Louisiana.
That's so cool.
I'm excited. Even though I don't love air travel, I tolerate it. It's necessary. And I didn't think, just a couple weeks ago, like, what if we just broke it, like the drive up into 2 days? But I was like, no, that's a terrible idea.
How long is that drive?
About 12 hours.
Is it really? Okay.
Change.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some change.
Okay.
My girlfriend told me she went to school at LSU and would, like, her first year at LSU would commute back home. And she's from here. She would commute back home. And she's like, I did that drive twice. And after the second time, I was like, I am not doing that again. So,
yeah.
Don't recommend it. If you are going to Baton Rouge, the easiest way is to fly. I'm afraid. If you're like me, you don't like doing it, then you got to suck it up.
It's a means to an end.
That's right. It's the means to an end. Yeah, I got to be I got to put my big boy pants on and just do what I have to do as an adult.
As he takes the mini bottles on the plane.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to need it. I'm an anxious traveler. I'm going to need it. But we can put people on the line today, too. Some really good submissions on the Firehouse Subs text line on who we are putting on the line today. And we have one nameless texter. It says, Brian Kelly calling Vakari Swain Vakari Smith in his press conference. Get on the line. Oh, yeah, I did hear that one. That one's pretty brutal.
I wonder if he was reading the story of Michael Smith entering the transfer portal and he just got it confused. Smith Swain, he was reading too much on South Carolina and goes into his presser with too many notes in his head.
Another fun one. If you want to talk about a bad beat from the weekend, if you dabble in some of the dark arts, we did have a nameless texter says, I'm putting the Bama running back on the line for ruining my 10.5 bet, or plus 10.5 bet. So this person definitely had Vanderbilt plus 10.5, which on the post-game shows, Wild Card Showdown, I definitely took Vanderbilt to cover that.
Not a bad bet, a bad beat.
Just a bad beat.
There's a difference. There's a difference.
Big difference, because it was not outside of 10 points until that last little bit.
That's one of those you got to just trust the process. You say, my process is good.
Yes.
Sometimes the results aren't going to come, but if I just keep trusting the process, we got to trust the results.
The results will eventually come.
Yeah.
Right? You will eventually win. So for that texter, keep doing what you're doing. It's good rationale. That happens sometimes. You win some, you lose some. And I think you've got the right idea. The right idea was there. Bobby says, Jerry Jones, get on the line. Yeah, flipping the bird to fans. Which I kind of expect that from Jerry Jones a little bit.
He's the one I don't expect it from, because usually he loves that stuff. This is the guy who holds press conferences for himself after every game. He's been in stadiums for 50 years hearing crap from his own fans, from opposing fans. Like, what could they have said that really warranted him flipping the bird on this one? I'm just curious. This is not a guy. It's not a David Tepper who's new to the NFL, new to being harassed. Jerry Jones knows the deal. I'm curious, what really caused him to go over the line, unless he just heard too much of the Micah Parsons stuff all offseason. He's finally at his breaking point.
Yeah, but
that's a good one. Jerry Jones, you know better. Get on the line.
Man. Yeah, he went full Bud Adams. Still old enough to remember Bud Adams in a game between the Titans and Bills where they beat the Bills, and he's looking out in the crowd and double barreling it. Now, Jerry Jones had the single barrel. Bud Adams went full double barrel with everybody that can see it. Jerry was trying to be a little more discreet about it. Bud Adams put those things above the shoulders and made sure everyone knows that you're number one.
Fine's going to be the same. Might as well go all out.
Yeah, that's a good point. The fine's going to be the same. You might as well completely lean into the bit. One of the things we've talked about on this show today is LSU's offense. Because when watching LSU this year, and you look at the numbers, I try to marry what the numbers say and maybe what my eyes see. And if they're on the same page, I think we can accept that as some truth. LSU's defense matches the numbers. They're pretty good. LSU's offense, numbers aren't good at all. And the more I watch them, the more I realize there's something pretty wrong with their offense. My now, I guess, question it leads me to, can South Carolina's defense take advantage of that? And the one thing I found really fascinating, Jordan, was in that game between LSU and Ole Miss, the entire game, at no point did Pete Golding, the defensive coordinator for Ole Miss, go away from the strategy. They rushed 3 the entire game. And Garrett Nussmeier was still making mistakes. They were still getting pressure. They were still getting home. They dared LSU to run them out of it, and LSU simply refused to do it. And I think that speaks volumes as to what shape this LSU offense is in right now.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the SEC rushing stats, and right now there are 2 teams averaging under 105 yards a game. And they're meeting on Saturday in Baton Rouge.
It's the Spider-Man meme right now. They're just kind of pointing at each other.
And it's going to be interesting because this is not the LSU offensive line of a year ago that had Will Campbell basically shut down Dylan Stewart and the LSU offensive line completely neutralizing a South Carolina rushing, pass rusher, Kyle Kennard, TJ Sanders, all those guys basically just neutralized them.
Especially after that first quarter.
Yeah.
They won them a few in that first quarter, but afterwards, Garrett Nussmeier was able to have a lot more time.
This is not that LSU offensive line, and I don't think they trust running the ball at all. And I also don't know that they trust Garrett Nussmeier at all. And so they're kind of just throwing it to the wind saying, all right, like, what's going to work? And it seems like their philosophy is we might not trust our rushing attack. We might not trust Garrett Nussmeier, but we trust our wide receivers. So let's just try and give them a chance on some of these plays and trust that they're maybe going to come up with a 50-50 ball, or let's throw them some screens and hope they can break some tackles. It seems like they believe their wide receivers are their best part of their offense, and they have to just find ways of getting them the ball. But what that does is all of a sudden it puts Garrett Nussmeier in positions where he's going to get sacked, or like you mentioned earlier, just throw the ball to the other team.
He's done that a lot this year. And Ole Miss dared him to make the right decision. I mean, when you're only rushing 3, you're dropping 8.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of zone. And it's a lot of a quarterback having to find where that soft spot is, have your receivers find where the soft spot is, and deliver a pass, maybe sometimes through some windows. And last year you saw Garrett Nussmeier be able to make those throws through tighter windows. It's not happening this year. That maybe you can attribute to some sort of oblique injury, but the decision to throw the ball into double or triple coverage is not something you can simply attribute to the oblique injury. And I think that lack of running game has kind of led to like this stat right here. One of my favorite measures of how a team uses their quarterback in the passing game is ADOT, average depth of target.
Yeah.
Last year was at 9.5. So the average pass for Garrett Nussmeier last season, traveling 9.5 yards in the air. This year, that's down to 7.6. It's one of the lowest in the SEC. It's a lot more screens and a lot of that offensive line. And also your screen game basically replacing your running game.
Yeah.
Right? Where normally you'd run the ball on 1st and 10, you're throwing it out to the boundary, hoping your perimeter blockers are able to give guys like Xavier Thomas and Berrien Brown room to run a little bit and maybe pick up 4 or 5 yards. Just substituting your run game with a screen passing game. And also, if you don't really trust your offensive line to protect, what's the quickest way to do it? A screen pass, right? And I think they've leaned into that a whole lot more, and I think that speaks volumes a lot about where Garrett Nussmeier is right now and where this offensive line is right now. And I can't help but think that that's actually something that this Carolina defense can exploit, because if there's anything they're really good at, they're good at rushing the passer. We've seen what Dylan Stewart can do. We've seen plenty of sample size there and the help required to keep him at bay, and what Brian Thomas Jr. has done on the opposite edge. If there's anything that should give Carolina fans hope that you can be in this game in the 4th quarter and make some magic happen in Death Valley, it's got to be winning at the line of scrimmage when you're on defense.
Another thing that should give Carolina fans some hope, I think the cornerbacks have been really good tacklers this year. I mean, this has been a really poor tackling team, but not at the cornerback position. You look at all the tackling numbers on PFF, Brandon Cisse is this team's best tackler. And Judge Collier, I know he was out for a while, but that's a guy South Carolina can usually rely on to make tackles. So if LSU's game plan is, hey, we don't think we can run the ball up the middle. Hey, we don't even want to throw up the middle. We want to try and get our wide receivers involved on the outside. At least South Carolina can be like, well, we're pitting that with our best tackling unit.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the game plan, it really, really does favor South Carolina.
And who are the type of receivers you're throwing to in screens a lot? A lot of your slot receivers, right? Usually you're not throwing it to your possession type receivers. You're throwing it a lot to guys like Berrien Brown, Xavier Thomas, smaller receivers who are just shiftier and quicker, meaning this is going to be a big game for your nickel corners. Brandon Cisse has been one of the better corners in the SEC in terms of forcing incompletions. And again, like you mentioned, with his tackling, is he maybe the best fundamental tackler on this team in terms of just not missing a lot of tackles? That's a legitimate discussion you could have, because I think that's a take that's not far-fetched. He's really good at that. This is a game where Brandon Cisse can really get you in a position to win this game.
The other thing that's going to be interesting is if you drop 8, I mean, there's going to be a lot of times where South Carolina is throwing 3 linebackers on the field. And
rangy linebackers.
These 3 linebackers are extremely athletic. And I would love to see, Justin O and Fred Johnson and Sean Murphy just be able to run in space. And on those screens, I mean, you need your linebackers to go help on these tackles.
Yes.
And when we saw a lot of the missed tackles in space, specifically in the Vanderbilt game, it was guys trying to make one-on-one tackles. And at that point, it can be 50-50 at times. You need help. And those linebackers, with how fast and like you said, rangy they are, I think they're going to have a lot of space to move and be able to help on these tackles.
Certainly. And that's the one thing that Shane Beamer, after the Kentucky game, mentioned. I remember asking about, the tackling, right? You were averaging 15 missed tackles in SEC play going into Kentucky, and that was significantly improved in that game. You can maybe chalk it up to Kentucky's offense. You can chalk it up to whatever, but one thing that Coach Beamer chalked it up to was the ability to get more guys on the ball, right? If somebody is one-on-one, you're getting a lot more help. And if you're getting a lot more help, like you said, it's a numbers game sometimes. You're more likely to take down one tackler when you're surrounded by 3 defenders. If they can do that in this game, then you'll see the stop rate numbers that we saw against Virginia Tech and against Kentucky. You'll see that more than what you saw in the 2 games that you've lost so far this season, where the tackling was really a weak point.
The question is, does LSU come out and test South Carolina's rush defense? Does it just run the ball down their throat and say, okay, we haven't been able to run the ball at all this season, but you haven't been able to stop it. Let's put a little mano-a-mano here and see what wins out. And I feel like LSU is going to at least come out and try to run the ball and see if they can kind of just get something. See if something over the bye week has changed for them offensively. See if they have a new blocking scheme, change some personnel with their offensive line, and feel good of, hey, we can get yards on the ground. Like, we can change our game plan. We don't want defenses dropping 8. And I feel like LSU is going to come out with that, and then if that's not working, they're going to probably revert back to what we saw against Ole Miss, where it's got to get the screens involved. We're not running the ball anymore. We're just doing everything through Garrett Nussmeier.
Abandoning ship completely.
Just basically white flag to the rushing offense and say, hey, is anything else working out there? Let's test these cornerbacks.
Especially if Caden Durham's healthy. I think that's another thing, too. That's the guy they trust to be able to take a lion's share of the carries. I know Harlan Berry, 5-star running back, they finally gave the ball to. He didn't get his first carry until about 10 minutes to go in the third quarter, and ended up getting 7 carries after that.
Yeah.
Maybe if there's no Caden Durham, you might see more of him, but that's another thing to watch for in this game on Saturday. But coming up next, one Gamecock tight end that we alluded to has left the team, but does that leave more room and more snaps for a Gamecock fan favorite?
Did you say Mo or more?
Oh, I said Mo. And we'll elaborate next on the early game. talk a lot about tackling and blocking. Those are fundamental parts of football. But a fundamental part of keeping your home or your business safe is the roof and the waterproofing aspect. Look, your operation can't run dry if the roof is leaking, which is why I tell you multiple times a day throughout this program that if you have a leak, you should let Midstate Roofing take a peek, because they've been doing this for nearly 30 years, right? This ain't their first rodeo. It's not their 1,000th rodeo. They have done many a rodeo when it comes to producing roofs and waterproofing to be able to keep your facility dry and running longer. It doesn't matter if it's high-rise or hospitals, or if the job is manufacturing to industrial. Midstate Roofing has been designing and installing bonded systems that give you a protective guarantee, and that's something you should not settle for anything less when it comes to roofing and waterproofing for your building. Give them a call today, 803-356-1919, or you can always hit them up online at midstateroofing.com. And remember, if you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek.
Twelfth Street Extension near I-77. There is an accident there. Also, Kaufman Road at Benson Road. Cedar Crest Drive at Highway 1. Also, Fairmount Drive at Leesburg Road. 2 more accidents to make you aware of. I-26 eastbound just after St. Andrews Road. And Sunset Boulevard at I-20. Rain coming in probably around lunchtime today. We'll have a high of 84. Then tomorrow, 74 for the high. The overnight low going into Friday will be 54. So going to be jacket weather towards the end of the week, at least early in the morning. But it's being kind of windy tomorrow as well. 68 currently.
Some news broke yesterday. Jordan Kay knows a little bit about that. Did some reporting on it with tight end Michael Smith deciding to redshirt and leave the program. He will be entering the almighty transfer portal, which sounds a little scarier when you word it like that. But Michael Smith is gone. And a couple months ago, if you would have told us that Michael Smith will be leaving the team early in the season, you're thinking that's a really big loss because the expectations were high. He is very physically gifted. He's got great size. And you saw the flashes last year. Hasn't really materialized so far in 2025. Other tight ends have taken more snaps. You've seen Brady Hunt get more targets. You've seen Jordan Dingle get more targets. You saw Mo Brown catch the first pass of the season, which leads me to this, Jordan Kay. With Michael Smith leaving, I think this leaves more room for a new Gamecock fan favorite and Mo Brown to maybe be a bigger part of this offense. And while it does suck to have a guy who you knew was going to be really talented, who showed you something last year, leave, I think what Carolina has in that tight end room makes this loss sting a little bit less.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I think Michael Smith coming into the year, I thought he was going to be far and away South Carolina's best tight end. I mean, this is a dude who's 6'6", 250, can make some of the most athletic catches you've seen from a tight end, especially like as a freshman last year, had 10 catches over 100 yards, but didn't play a ton. You'd see him in practice, though, for a guy who like came in the summer, didn't even have spring, just fantastic. And then transfers out. He really had only played like 60 combined snaps between special teams and at tight end, which is not a lot.
No.
And then I went and looked at the stats, and I'm thinking of your guy, Mo Brown. He had like only played like 50-something, and he's on a lot of special teams. So it's like, which was almost more impressive to me because every time he's out there, he makes an impact.
You know he's out there. There are no invisible snaps from Mo Brown.
Also, it feels like South Carolina is using him almost less as a tight end sometimes and more as a fullback, which really fits the look because he's got the
he's got the cowboy collar and the midriff.
Got the cowboy collar. I mean, this is a dude who looks the part of probably more a fullback than a tight end, but he's going to hit you, and you're going to feel it when he's coming. And this is, I thought it was interesting earlier in the season that we didn't see Michael Smith a ton. It was a lot of Brady Hunt, who really kind of like fell by the wayside last year. This is like a really old dude. And then Jordan Dingle, the Kentucky transfer, they were playing a lot more. And Shane Beamer was kind of asked about it, like, hey, like, where is Michael Smith? Like, is he hurt? And like Shane Beamer's like, no, he's not hurt. Like, practice matters. And I was like, oh, okay.
That turned into a theme of the entire press conference, was practice mattering.
Practice matters. And that was a little insight of, okay, this coaching staff is not happy with how Michael Smith is practicing, how he's handling his business Monday through Friday. And that was kind of an insight of, okay, things aren't great. But then you started to see his snaps ramp up a little bit. And it was, okay, maybe he got that message. Maybe he understands this. And it just doesn't seem like there was complete connection between, the coaching staff and him. And, for his sake, he had only played 4 games. In order to preserve his red shirt, he has to make his decision now. There's a good and a bad of the 4-game red shirt rule. If you're South Carolina, this is the bad of, hey, guys kind of have to make business decisions sometimes. For his sake, though, you would have liked to have seen him maybe stick around. Like, Brady Hunt's going to be gone. Like, this could have been his tight end room next year.
Yes.
But he obviously didn't see it that way. He's like, I got to take my year, go redshirt, go find somewhere that I can maybe play a little bit more.
I like how you mentioned how Mo Brown's usage, because he is such an athlete.
Oh,
I love how they could use him at fullback, especially when you're struggling with your offensive line to create holes, to get push on the line of scrimmage. Sometimes having that guy as your lead blocker can help you out a lot. And with the game on Saturday, one thing I noticed with what Ole Miss did to get Trinidad Chambliss space to run was, I remember there was a 3rd and 11 in the third quarter. Pretty late in the third quarter. They're backed up against their own end zone. Chambliss snaps the ball. It's a quarterback draw, so obviously they're showing pass first. Logan Diggs, the backup running back, runs up the middle, gives a lead block up the middle, just a lead draw, and takes out Whit Weeks, who was the spy on the play. And Chambliss is able to follow his lead, and he converted a 3rd and 11 on a quarterback draw. And that extended the drive, and that obviously was a big part of them being able to preserve that lead and being able to win that game. I look at that and I think, why can't Mo Brown do that for running backs? Why can't Mo Brown do that for Lenoris on Saturday?
Yeah, and I thought I would have to go back and look, but I don't believe in any short yardage package that South Carolina has used like a defensive tackle as a lead blocker, and that's something that Shane Beamer has done in the past. I don't know that Mike Shula's done that in the past, but South Carolina has used that. I can't remember, was it Tonka Hemingway or TJ Sanders that used to always be in those short yardage packages. It didn't always work because that guy's not practicing blocking a lot, and I don't always love those packages. Because you're really just saying like, hey, our guy's bigger than yours. Let's see if he can push him back. It's like, okay, but is he how is he practicing this? Like, how well does he understand this?
If he's not repping it a lot, how good is he going to be?
Yeah, so I'm always it's like very hit or miss of like, okay, are you just throwing this guy out there because he's big, or does he like actually know what he's doing? It's like 50-50. Well, Mo Brown gives you all the positives of that size and power of a defensive tackle, with the skill and finesse of the tight end. And I'm with you. It's like, hey, why can't this guy be more of a factor? Why can't this guy be more of a lead blocker? And it seems like they're trying to use him more because every time they put him out on the field, he makes a play. He does something that just helps the offense, something that sends a message to the opposing team.
And I found it telling, too, when Shane was thinking about that first play of the year against Virginia Tech. He goes, we wanted to get the ball in the hands of our most physical runner and set a tone early. That told me also a lot about what Mo Brown does for this offense and the type of player he is with the ball. Taking our first big look at the LSU game today. And coming up next, Dawson Iserloh from ESPN Southwest Louisiana, doing a little home and home here. I was on his show earlier this week. He's going to join us next to give us the lowdown, if you will, on this LSU Tigers team. He joins us coming up next.
12th Street Extension near I-77, report of a tie-up there. Also Coffin Road at Benson. Cedar Crest Drive at Highway 1. Sunset Boulevard at I-20, an accident there. And the DeQuincy Newman Freeway southbound at Fontaine Road, also a report of an accident. The earlier slowdown on I-26 eastbound after St. Andrews Road, that has been cleared, so good news, and traffic flow should start improving shortly. 84 with a high for the high today. The thunderstorms possible sometime after lunch. And then we get more windy conditions tomorrow and cooler temperatures. 74 for the high. Overnight low going into Friday, only 54. So going to get a little jacket weather there. 67 right now on the early game.
Breaking down the matchup between South Carolina and LSU, efforting, industry term, our friend Dawson Iserloh from ESPN Southwest Louisiana. They broadcast over in Lafayette and Lake Charles, Louisiana, and it looks like we have him right now. Dawson, good morning. Welcome to the early game. Appreciate you coming on. I like the home and home that we're having, kind of like what we do, what we've done in the SEC the last couple of years of just flip-flopping home sites, but it's good to have you on my program.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Good to be here.
And I think the one place you got to lead off with, the offense. It's funny. Jordan Kay's in the studio with me right now. We talked earlier about how South Carolina and LSU, their fans are in a similar boat, right? Pleased with the defense. The offense has been a mess at times. And there seems to be, whether it's oblique injury related, whether it's just natural regression, doesn't look like we're getting the same Garrett Nussmeier in 2025 that you got in 2024. What's kind of your evaluation of him been so far this year?
Yeah, I mean, clearly something's not right. You know, it's so weird because, you know, the first few weeks of the season, the Clemson game, you kind of look past it. You go, hey, first game of the year, Clemson defense we thought was going to be great. So you figure, hey, they made enough plays to win the game. And then a couple of, you know, performances where, again, they didn't ask him to do a ton. They were a better football team. And I think the Florida game was the first time you really went, okay, something might not be right here. And they won the game, and Lagway threw 5 picks. And that was the game where Brian Kelly was very adamant afterwards that they did what they had to do to win the football game. He didn't love some of the questioning. But it was like, all right, this is an offense that just isn't clicking right now. So you still, they've won every game to that point. So in the Ole Miss, you give them the benefit of the doubt. And then before the Ole Miss game, that's when Kelly finally says, yeah, you know, he's kind of been dealing with a little bit of an injury. And, you know, it was a little bit weird of the timing, but you figure, all right, that's fine. And then the Ole Miss game again, he just doesn't have the same zip on the football. You know, it seems pretty obvious to us. And then they've been really weird with is he hurt? Is he not hurt? They don't want to be clear about it. So it's clear to me, and I think it's clear to most people, that something is bothering him. He just doesn't have the same zip on the football. But the decision-making has also been a problem, and that shouldn't be injury-related at all, right? He's just made bad decisions at times. So there's just been a surprising regression, and that's not something that anybody thought was going to happen heading into the season.
And then defensively, too, the last couple of years, it's been funny because it was the same script with this LSU team where you had incredible offenses, including in 2023, where you had one of the best that I've seen in college football, but it was negated because of bad defensive performances. Blake Baker comes in last year, paid a lot of money, and now it looks like that money is well spent because you're top 10 in a lot of different metrics in the country in terms of how this team plays defense. But where have you seen the most change defensively to be able to lead them, to be able to put these type of outputs out?
Well, you know, to be honest with you, one way is the money they spent in the portal. They went out, and it's funny, the whole Bryce Underwood situation, he flips, he goes to Michigan, and it seemed like LSU said, you know what, all right, we need to go fix the defense. Let's take all the NIL money, and let's go apply it elsewhere. And they brought in a Jack Pyburn from Florida. Mansour Delane from Virginia Tech's been unreal. He's got a chance to be a first-round draft pick at corner. They just got a lot more talent on that side of the ball, to be honest with you. And Blake Baker helped because you started to see the signs of them getting better last year when he came in as the defensive coordinator. But they've just got a lot more talent, especially in the secondary. A.J. Halsey, another guy they brought in from Houston. And then you still were able to, put Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks out there. So, I mean, it's as good a defense as you're going to find. And, yeah, it's pretty funny in some ways. They finally get the defense fully figured out. And lo and behold, offense, which has never been a problem for them, is all of a sudden the issue.
It's Jordan K. here. Thanks for coming on. Take us through this LSU rushing attack. There are a lot of South Carolina fans who are pretty fed up with how the Gamecocks have been running the ball, but it doesn't seem like LSU's doing too much better.
No, it's been the biggest problem in my opinion too, and that's part of the reason. Like some of the Nussmeier struggles, I think, are related to the fact that they just don't have any help. And it was a problem last year too. They really didn't run the ball well, even though they had that offensive line that was kind of highly touted. They had Will Campbell. They had a bunch of NFL draft picks on that line. They still weren't able to run the football with the running backs very effectively. And even the last year, Jaden Daniels, he was really the only reason they ran the ball. So even since Kelly's been here, the running game has not been consistent. And it's been no different this year. And now it's probably been a little bit worse. Caden Durham was out last week. They are going to get him back this week, so they're kind of hopeful that gives him some life. But, they're also doing some shuffling on the offensive line. They've got a freshman who started to play well. He's probably going to get a chance to start at guard. But it is their biggest weakness. They can't run the football, and it puts them behind the sticks, and it makes, Nuss have to try and throw the ball down the field a little bit more. It is by far, it's a big Achilles heel on this LSU team.
Dawson Iserlo is with us right now from ESPN Southwest Louisiana. Dawson, you mentioned earlier about Brian Kelly's testiness when not liking a few of the questions asked him, specifically after that Florida game. How much pressure do you think that coaching staff is on right now to get these results this season, given what's happened the last two?
Yeah, and it's like I don't sense from the way BK's answered some of these questions, it didn't seem like it came from a place of frustration for me, or fear of losing his job or anything. Because after it was a win, they were still unbeaten at the time. But there's no doubt there's got to be some pressure. Like LSU's one of those jobs where the expectations are perhaps even a little bit unfair, right? You're going to have to do things, and now getting to the playoff, especially given all the money they went out and spent, they asked the fan base to support the NIL program, right? They got all the donors in place, and they went out and spent a ton of money. So if they don't get that return on investment, there's going to be a lot of questions asked. But honestly, from Brian Kelly, I think he's a guy who's been around long enough. He's coached so many different places. I don't know if he necessarily is going to let that pressure get to him, but it exists, no doubt. Like the pressure exists because it's been a handful of years now where they haven't quite gotten to the point that they wanted to get to.
Dawson, what's the vibe among the LSU fan base about this South Carolina game? Do any Tigers fans worried about the Gamecocks possibly pulling an upset, or is this 100% confidence that LSU is going to come off the bye week, get right against the Gamecocks, get right against Vanderbilt in a week after that, and then kind of go from there?
Well, yeah, it's funny. I think that depends on the segment of the fan base you're talking to, because I do think there's a segment of it right now that's just about done with this team and just doesn't believe anymore, which I think is a little bit, going a little too far, right? They have only lost one football game, and it was ultimately by one score in Oxford. But, yeah, I think the more realistic side of the fan base feels pretty good about it. It's a matchup that it's interesting. Both teams, like you said, with the running game stuff, they both struggle in the same ways. So, they both have pretty rock solid defenses. They both, struggle to get the run game going. So they're both going to ask their quarterbacks to make a lot of plays. And I think the fact that it's a home game, obviously it's tough to win in Tiger Stadium. So that's another thing that plays in LSU's favor. But yeah, there's definitely a portion of the LSU fan base that's basically out on this whole experience right now. So those fans are feeling a little doom and gloom right now.
That's Dawson Iserlo, host of The Lowdown on ESPN Southwest Louisiana. Dawson, appreciate your time as always, my man. Look forward to talking to you again here soon.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Anytime.
Good stuff there from Dawson. And before we hit the break, too, I was just informed of my personal text line, not sponsored by anybody yet, that Jeremiah Donati, athletic director for the University of South Carolina will be joining the postgame show with Jay Phillips and Terry Ford at
That's
4
must listen
p.m.
radio
this afternoon. Yeah, you got the boss in.
I know. 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Got the boss in. So 4 o'clock today. Make sure you tune in here on the Game Network or watch on the YouTube stream at the Game TV and be able to watch Jeremiah Donati and hear what he has to say about the state of the athletic department. Jeremiah Donati, a winner.
Do you think that Terry will actually let him be on camera, or is Terry so fixated on himself being on camera? Do you think he'll share the spotlight with Jeremiah?
We're just lucky the camera hasn't broken because of Terry Ford yet.
There you go. Yeah.
So if anything, yes, Terry might have to relinquish a little bit of camera time. But Jeremiah Donati will be joining them today again at 4 o'clock. That's going to be a winner of an hour. We'll give our winners for today's show, including a beloved community mascot that we lost yesterday that we will pay tribute to coming up next. The Ecton Law Firm. Look, sometimes taxes can weigh you down. It could be maybe personal tax issues or business tax issues. They can be hard to get out of and be hard to resolve on your own, right? Getting out of tax issues can be a team effort. Let John Ecton and his team go to work for you. One of my favorite things that the Ecton Law Firm does is that they provide you a free consultation, because you got to talk through this stuff. It takes a lot of game planning to be able to address your specific situation. Different situations call for different game plans, different points of attack. John Ecton and his team can give you that free consultation today by giving them a call at 803-771-9800. Again, 803-771-9800. Let John and his team help you resolve those issues like they have for many people across this great state. And of course, you can always set up something on EctonLawFirm.com. That's ECTONLawFirm.com.
winners. Winners.
Coach Singletary wants winners, and we got them. We got some winners for him. But I'd be remiss if I didn't give a winner for today's show to a beloved local mascot, a staple of the Lexington County community that we lost yesterday, a winner for nearly 3 decades, Abraham the Camel. Beloved figure. The Camel, I guess, reading from the news story yesterday by Hannah Wade in the State, nearly 7 foot tall. And he is. I stood next to him. Tall fella. For nearly 30 years has been showing up parades, church events, Lexington County Blowfish games, where I saw him do his craft for the first time. His main thing I would see him do is drink a bottle of Mountain Dew in record time.
Oh, wow.
And it's insanely impressive. I was showing Jordan Kay a video of it that I took during the break.
And do you want a hyper camel?
He handled it well, right?
Okay.
As a young kid who maybe was introduced to Mountain Dew at way too young of an age, would not have been able to handle the sugar rush that would come from downing a bottle of Dew in like less than 15 seconds. But he handled it like a pro.
Wow.
Always did.
I just want to know how do you learn he can do that?
That was one of my first thoughts.
Great question. I think a camel ought to try Mountain Dew.
Why Mountain Dew?
Yeah.
That's what well, rest in peace, Abraham.
Rest in peace, announced yesterday that Abraham the Camel passed away, owned by Councilman Clifford Fisher and Margaret Fisher of Lexington County. They are winners, too, because they got to introduce the community to a remarkable animal, a beloved figure, and parades in Lexington County will not be the same without Abraham. So, Abraham the Camel, you are my winner for today's show.
My winner today is calling your shot. I don't know if you saw this last night in the Mariners-Tigers playoff game, but a Mariners fan named Jamison Turner sitting in the left field bleachers with a shirt that says "Dump 61 here." Mariners catcher Cal Raleigh has the nickname Big Dumper. He was sitting on 60 home runs. Next one would be 61. This dude is sitting out there. Looks like he's alone, the only Mariner fan out there. Sure enough, Cal Raleigh comes up. Home run ball hits in the bullpen, bounces right to the guy with dump 61 here. The best part is he has this custom-made shirt. He catches 61, he takes off the shirt, and he's got one that says dump 62 here.
Oh, my God. The guy was planning for it.
This guy was planning for it. He makes these shirts, shows up, and then gets the home run ball, meets Cal Raleigh afterwards. An absolute legend.
That's incredible.
Yeah, calling your shot, definitely a winner. I encourage anybody. You have a shot to call, you do it.
What are the odds of,
Mariners, though, really close to doing something really special. Again, we mentioned it during the morning meeting. They are one game away from doing something that franchise has not done since 2001. Let's make the LCS.
This is the only second time they've made the playoffs since then, too. I mean, this is a terrible franchise.
What's so wild about the Seattle Mariners is they've had really good players. Like Felix Hernandez was one of the best pitchers in baseball for a decade. Never enough for them to be a constant winner.
No.
And they've tried. If the Mariners can pull it off, then they will definitely be a winner on this show. And also, another winner I want to give out to, the 2001 Seattle Mariners. A team that won 116 games in the regular season. Still, that's a team that just gets forgotten because they did get manhandled in the ALCS that year to the Yankees. But a team winning 116 games is absurd.
I think that also brings up a point of one of the sadder banners in sports. They hung a banner for their regular season win total.
Oh, man.
You know, that's how you know your franchise is in despair when there's no championship banners, but we're going to hang one for the regular season we did well.
As somebody who spent several years working for the Nashville Predators radio network, a franchise that may or may not have hung a banner for regular season champions after they won the President's Trophy in 2018. That banner's still there, and they still to this day on hockey Twitter get mocked for that banner.
It's a tough one,
as they should.
Yeah, a franchise that doesn't have a ton of postseason success. That's made one Stanley Cup final, but also winter hockey's back. So for those who do dabble in the sport of the NHL, we are back last night. I got to watch a little bit of West Coast hockey before going to bed. It was nice.
LA Kings?
LA Kings and the Colorado Avalanche. Avalanche, 4 goals opening night. They're back. Wow. They're good. They're dangerous. Jordan, thanks as always for joining, especially getting to come into studio. It's great having you here.
Guys. Thank you.
Good stuff from Jordan Kay. Great stuff from Jen Jensen. I'm Elijah Campbell, and Jack Veltri and Tyler Head in the Extra Point. That's next.